everybody, Heather here. So today I just wanted to cover a pretty common question about our phones, our smartphones, and what we can do if we think we're going to be in temperatures that are really cold or maybe really hot. I know this is probably a really common question for people, whether you are, I don't know, like you could be snowboarding or skiing and you're leaving your phone in your car, or maybe somewhere that you work, or you have a seminar or something, you leave it in your car. Or like in my situation, I actually live in my car and I live in the elements pretty much all the time. So my phone gets exposed to the temperatures pretty much that I'm in. Um, I basically have been living this way for like about 7 years and started off in a converted SUV. So in that situation, again, the phone was pretty much always in whatever temperature that either I was in or the inside of the car. I'm now in a truck camper, so it's basically, yeah, like a camper shell in the back of the truck. And for the record, I don't have any heating in here. I know you can. We live really simple though, and I'm like completely off grid, so I don't have heating in here. So the inside of even this camper can get pretty chilly. And so, yeah, so I just want to address this question because I think it's pretty important and pretty common. So, how cold can the phones handle? Basically, how cold is too cold for a smartphone? So, so I was wondering about this. So I had a few questions about whether or not it would hurt the phone. And between my experience and research, I basically concluded that, yeah, the phone probably really shouldn't be an extreme cold. But what is extreme cold? Well, I mean, I think we should think of it in terms of above or below freezing. So what can happen to the phones? Well, if you leave a smartphone in extreme cold, basically it can just damage it, and the components will not function correctly. Like, say, like the screen. I can't show you my phone because I'm using it to record right now. But yeah, like the screen, the touch screen might not work or be not responsive. And really, it's an issue of long-term care for your battery. This could damage the battery. And then in the short term, literally the phone could just turn off. And I know this from experience. We went up to the Arctic on a trip all the way up to the Yukon, Northwest Territories. That was really awesome. But when we came up to what was literally above the Arctic Circle, and I got excited. We went over this pass and it was snowing and like ice, like sideways on the sign up there. And I thought, oh gosh, I gotta get a picture of this. This is pretty cool, like a once in a lifetime experience maybe. So I jumped down of the vehicle and ran over in the snow and pulled the phone out and went to take a picture, and it like instantly turned off. And it was probably like 60% or so. But then, so I was like, oh man. But then later on, I was able to turn the phone, put the phone onto the charger, and it pretty much came back on at that 60%. So I don't know. It seems to me that maybe it's a safeguard that's built into the phone, which is a good thing. So it's probably good that it just turns off like that. I think it's built in, unless otherwise it just was malfunctioning and turned off. But it went cold completely off. And I've had that a few other times in cold. Yellowstone was another time that the phone just completely turns off when it's really cold. But those temperatures are definitely below freezing. I don't know what the mark is, if it's like built into the phone or if it just, like I said, spazzes out and turns off. But yeah, basically, like I said, you want to be thinking of that below freezing mark. Now, my assumption, I haven't found anything that really goes into this in my research, but my assumption is it makes sense to me that the freezing mark matters because, what is freezing? 32 Fahrenheit, 0 Celsius, whatever, that freezing mark, that's based on water. So what I'm thinking is that it probably has something to do with maybe moisture. If there's moisture, if there's any little bit of water in the phone, like I could see that damaging components in the phone. I know from experience with understanding, cracking of rocks, that that water expands like, I don't know, like 9 times its size when it freezes. So yeah, you can imagine that in those microscopic components, if that's happening, it could do damage to the phone component. So I would assume that's the main worry. And that got me thinking about moisture. So I would say it's not just the temperature, it's also a moisture situation to worry about. So in your case, if you're worried about this, I'd say some things to think about would be like, one, just obviously try to keep it in as much heat as you can. Like, try to not let the phone be left somewhere where it's going to be that cold. And like I said, I know sometimes there's situations where, everybody brings their phone everywhere with them. So, I don't know, if you're bringing it on the mountain skiing or something, I mean, you're going to have your phone with you. Or like in my situation, I just don't have heat. So it's going to have to be the temperature it is. So yeah, so it might be exposed, but there are some things that we can do. We can try to keep it warm. Our body is warm. You can keep it, some warmth. Keep it out of the wind. You could put it like, I have this like little case that it could sit in just to keep it out of wind and cold. So keeping it in some kind of case. They do make thermal cases now. So I'll put some links to those in the description here. So just check that out if you're curious. I'll put some Amazon links. If you are interested in checking those out, they will help keep the phone warm. But then in addition to that, like I said, I think moisture is a big deal. So I would keep it out of moisture and maybe even have a waterproof case on it if you think that it might be exposed to moisture. Also, something to watch out for if you're trying to keep it warm with your body heat. Just make sure, again, there's not a lot of moisture. So the other tips from my experience and research would be to give it some time if it has been in the cold. Don't just plug it in right away or turn it on. First off, keep it off if it's in the cold. Like, keep the phone off completely. Some sources will say to put it on the battery saving modes, which sure, do that. But if you can, I'd say just turn it off completely overnight or whatever. Like, if you are, living in this like van or converted SUV or a truck camper and you're in the cold and you don't have heat, or if you're skiing or outdoor sports or whatever you're doing, leaving it in your car overnight, turn it off. Okay. And then, when you're ready to use your phone, give it some time to warm up. Like if it's still cold, just give it some time, and before you put it on a charger, let the phone warm up. Then you can charge it, and then you should be able to use it and not have any problems. Again, you're just trying to make sure really that it's not trying to function while it's still cold, so that nothing happens to it. So try to keep it warm if you can, and if you can't, give it that time to warm up. And then I'll leave it at that for now. I'll talk some more about this. Maybe the other side of this is heat, but I'm gonna leave it at this for now. It's time for breakfast, so I'll talk more about this. But if you're interested, check some of the links below, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.